When did you upload your first video to YouTube?
The first video I put on YouTube was my graduation speech from UCSF. So my buddy, this guy Ellie, he's a surgeon now. We were med school buddies. He recorded the whole thing on like one of those VHS handy cams in 1999. And I was voted like the class at UCSF, got to vote for 2 speakers. And one of them was this very earnest young lady who was like, we're gonna overthrow the system and single payer and all this stuff. And the other one was me because they just wanted to like give a stiff middle finger to the whole experience because they knew I'd do that. So he recorded it and I had it on a VHS and I played it back and I was like, oh man, this was the highlight of my life. I got laughs out of my colleagues. Like it felt like I was finally accepted, right? Like my whole life and career in medical school, I'm trying to, because the first day of medical school, I'll never forget, it was like being back in high school. Like nobody accepts you. Immediately there's cliques. You're trying to find them, okay, am I with the, and you're like, am I with the nerds? In medical school, everybody's some variant of nerd, but like there's the jock nerds and there's the stoner nerds and there's this, so you gotta find your thing so you're not accepted. So finally I was like, oh, I got laughter from my peers and my mentors who are sitting behind me in this talk that I did. And so I was like, YouTube was a new thing. I figured out like how to upload it on my PC and I put it on YouTube and immediately it got like 30,000 views. And I was like, what? Like 30,000 views of this like speech that I did. And that was when I started thinking, oh, what if I did this consciously and actually started creating content? I don't think there are doctors doing this.
Why do you think that one got 30,000 views?
Well, you could say, well, it was the early days of YouTube. There wasn't a lot of medical content. I think because...
No, that's too self-effacing. What do you think what was the chord it struck?
What people tell me, and I have trouble seeing this in myself, is that I saw something as it was, and I presented it as it was using humor, but it was all true. So none of the jokes I made in that speech were actually based on untruth. They were all true, and nobody apparently in medicine had the courage, especially in those days, to actually say that publicly.
It's interesting that nobody had the courage to say the truth.
No, because first of all, I think a lot of people are in denial of the truth because the truth is very hurtful. Like when you figure it out, you go, I don't want to know that. So you pull up the defenses. And I think the second thing is people are conditioned. Like you're really conditioned by fear. Oh my gosh, I'm going to hurt someone if I do the wrong thing in medicine, or I'm going to offend a patient or my mentors and then I'm going to not have a job, or I'm not going to get patients, or people aren't going to trust me. Because remember, most doctors, anyone worth their salt, has imposter syndrome. They think they don't even belong there because they know what they don't know. And they're like, this is really hard. And they're always afraid that someone's going to get onto them. So if you go up in front of all your classmates and your mentors and Nobel Prize winner Michael Bishop sitting behind me and Dean Haile DeBoss and all these luminaries, and you go, this is what I think of medical school, you are making yourself vulnerable in a way that is unthinkable. Now, of course, because I was also desperate for acceptance, I knew deep down this is the only way my own peers will accept me, is if I go up there, because I don't have something special in terms of intellect. I'm not going to like blow them away with my knowledge of the force. I'm not some Jedi medical person. I'm like an average doc. But what I do have is the ability to stand up and say things in a funny way that's true.
It's interesting because the truth does hurt, right? But like lies compounded hurt so much worse.
Well, so lies compounded hurting worse is a truth that you only realize as you get older and those lies come to roost in your life. And you go, oh man, I've been lying to myself. I've been lying to everyone else. Other people have been lying to me. We're all lying to ourselves too. We're really good at self-deception. And then why am I unhappy? Why is the consistent acquisition of material goods and success?
Yeah.
Everything, click it off, unhappy, unhappy, unhappy. Maybe if I just get this, unhappy still. And so you do have to start to cut through the deception, and that's hard. It's an ongoing process.
Do you think the culture of medicine is built on lies?
Is the culture of medicine built on lies? I think the culture of medicine thrives on putting up a front and a kind of a deception, the same way an actor puts up a front. But in acting, it's clear the person is acting. In medicine, it's not. So in the room, you're a certain persona. Online, you're a certain persona. With your colleagues, you're a certain persona. Heaven forbid you're yourself. That's just the one persona that's probably not acceptable, right? So yeah, I think it is based on a kind of a fabricated icon that you present to the world, for sure.
Kind of what I'm thinking, and it's hard to be concise about this, so I'll just ramble a little bit, is like when you show up and you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, right, on day one, and you think you're going to save the world and that things are one way, and then you find out that the opposite way, and you're forced to swallow the black pill, basically, that like, this is not going to go how you think it's going to go, and no, really, you're not here to help, you're here to bill. It kind of like, you have to then accept the lie and live the lie at that point, because you're in too deep.
And that, this idea that how we're paid is all antithetical to our idealism is one piece of it. But then go even deeper. Your day on the wards, third year medical school, I remember these cases where like we had, the team had misdiagnosed an endometrial cancer as something benign. And it told this woman and her partner that everything was okay. And then the pathology re-report came back, and we had to go and tell this woman, no, actually, everything's not okay. The endometrial biopsy shows you have cancer. And seeing how we had to present that and handle that, and it was this big production and all this prep going into the room. And in reality, what was required was a human being to go in there and go, I'm so sorry, we made this mistake for these reasons. We will never make this mistake again because we've learned from this, but this is what's going on and I'm so sorry. That's what needed to happen, right?
Did you feel 10 years ago as a doctor when you were like in the thick of it, did you feel like you were walking around passively through sort of a labyrinth that was created by malevolent actors?
It feels like that sometimes, but at the same time, it's intermixed instantly with this joy of, oh my gosh, I got to be with this guy today when he had his amputation, and you got to be with him post-op and tell him everything went okay, and you got to be with the family. So you have that magical shamanic thing, and then you have absolute garbage where you go, you know what, we can't even dot our I's and cross our T's and keep our act together. None of these records connect. This guy was seen here, but now we're duplicating all the tests because all the system failure. And then you see people failures where it's like egos clashing and bad conditioning. I like to believe these are all really good people in a very bad system. And, like Marty McCary and I were talking, and, he's written books about how bad the money games are in medicine. And he said, every time I sit down with these people, though, I'll go with the CEO of a company that's been suing their own patients. And these are real, you know it, you feel it. These are good people. Sometimes they don't even know what's going on. They can't see the full system that's evolved. But the thing is, we're still responsible for that.
It reminds me of Murray Rothbard wrote a book called Bureaucracy, and basically, like in it, he says that you can't change bureaucracy. That bureaucracy will change you. And once you go into it, it's going to grind you down and make you part of the machine. Bureaucracy
will change you is the bumper sticker that they should give you before you start medical school.
Yeah.
And look at it every day and go, is that happening to me? Is that happening to me? And believe me, every day you'll find one little thing that has happened to you that bureaucracy has changed you. It's absolutely true. And I think this is where, so if you look at the effect we've had over 10 years, the reason doctors and nurses and healthcare people and patients who care about this stuff actually watch us is they go, oh, that's funny because it's true. I felt that. You know what? No one's ever said that's got any credentials behind their name. Like people whisper about it and they say this, but they won't go out publicly and say, you know what, this thing's built on a house of cards that's going to crumble unless we who have built it actually do something about it.
People like that about you. Like when you did the moral injury video, right? They liked it because you were saying, we're not burned out. Like there's not something wrong with us. Like you people hurt us.
Yeah. That moral injury video is interesting because I had no idea that video was going to get that kind of response. And in fact, you and I were talking when we were making it, and I'm like, well, here's a thought. Let's do this thing about moral injury. I've talked about it briefly before, and I feel strongly about it. No one's going to care about it, but let me just get this off my chest. And you were like, yeah, whatever. And we were both like, whatever. And we did it. I just did that rant, and I started getting angry during the rant. Put it out, and it went crazy. And for doctors, that was like a rallying cry. Like, you know what? It isn't just us. We're not crazy. The system is crazy. But the problem is it feels like they're blaming us. It feels like the system is saying, it's your fault. You're not resilient. You're not tough enough. You don't meditate enough. You're not woke enough. So you can't adapt to this because everyone else is adapting, right? Wrong. Because in medicine, we don't communalize our pain. We isolate into silos. So you don't know that the guy in the office next to you, who's working in the big corporate medicine world that you're in, is contemplating suicide. You have no idea. You think that this is a super accomplished surgeon who does this and this and this. You have no idea because we don't share our pain. Moral injury video probably was one of the seminal moments where we go, guess what? My pain is like this. Is yours like this? And everybody stands up and goes, that's it. That's what it is. And it doesn't even have to be 100% correct. And a lot of people gave me crap for it. And they're like, you know what? You're letting individuals off the hook. There is some responsibility for resilience and all that. And I'm like, well, just read the comments. See how people have been treated. See how they feel. And then invalidate that. Tell me you can invalidate that. You can't. This is a groundswell, right? The question then is, what do you do with that? Right? What do you do with that righteous anger and that awakening where you're like, man, we're getting fucked?
One of the revolutionaries during the Scottish Revolution, can't remember his name, but he said, you know, I care not who makes the laws of the land, but I care who writes its songs. And what he's really saying there is like, I care about the culture because we're always going to be trampled underfoot. But I care about how we're interacting with power, you know? And what I'm saying to you is like, do you think you've changed the culture since you started speaking out 10 years ago? Because that's the goal, right?
If you want to unveil an imposter syndrome in me, ask me if anything has changed because of what I've done.
Tell me the answer.
And I'll tell you, if it has, I'm going to deny that it was because of me. I'm going to say it was the inevitable progress of people waking up. But honestly,
take yourself out of it.
If I take myself out of it, I would say, well, people are using terminology even, like Health 3.0, whatever that is, right? This ethos of rehumanizing medicine. People are talking about moral injury, which wasn't invented by me. It was Wendy Dean and Simon Talbot who took it from a book about Vietnam. And so this idea that everything builds on this sort of series of cause and effects of every player in a network effect. So yes, I'm a node in this network, and a pretty decent sized node. I mean, a couple million people. And I get recognized everywhere I go now. It's crazy. It's unsettling. And yet, at the same time, when it happens and someone says, hey, the reason I follow you is your moral injury piece, or what you said about nurse violence, or what you did, I go, oh, you get this feeling of elevation, like, duh, like my little part of the network had some effect. And so that's how I think about it. Did we have an effect? It's this additive effect of all these things starting to perturbate. And that's why I tell people, oh, what can I do? I'm powerless. I'm a CNA, or I'm a nurse, or I'm a primary care physician at Kaiser, and I feel sometimes like I'm a part of a big system that doesn't move. Move your ass. Stop complaining and just do one thing and watch what happens, because the network starts to vibrate. The next thing you know, you have a dramatic shift in perception, which then changes action, which changes everything. So that's a long answer to the question of did we have an effect. Now that I think about it, actually, yeah, fuck yeah, we had a big effect, and we continue to have effect. And the next 10 years is going to be even more insane because we're getting more self-aware as to how to make this effect even more pronounced, right?
Yeah. It's almost like we're stuck on a cruise liner that's like barreling towards disaster, right? And we're all just locked in the cargo hold, and we have to, every day we have to hear sort of propaganda type announcements, you know, from the loudspeaker. And what you're doing is changing the way that people interact with the announcements coming over the loudspeaker. You know, so you could say like, okay, you haven't stopped the shift from barreling ahead to certain disaster, but it's like, it can't be stopped, right?
Yeah.
What we need to change is ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I think the criticism of the moral injury piece was, but you're letting people off the hook for changing themselves. And the answer is no. The answer is that's not what we're doing. The answer is people are starting to become aware of what it is that's hurting them.
Yeah.
So you're listening to this voice that's telling you it's me, it's all me, I'm a failure, I'm an imposter, I can't do it. And then suddenly there's another voice that's telling you that he's suffering too, that's saying, hey, guess what? Actually, it's not just you. It's all this. If we all realize that, I bet we could change all this. Then it is our responsibility, right? And even then, I talk about things like meditation and transcending this illusion of self and these other things that cause human suffering. That's also necessary. That's also part of it. If everybody suddenly got awakened to this, the whole system would transform, right? But you can't expect that. It has to be, you have to hit it at all angles, I think.
It's change is slow because it has to happen at an individual level, right? One person at a time.
One person at a time. There was a point you and I were having a discussion. How do we transform medicine? And the answer we came up with was it has to happen one person at a time. Every message we get on Facebook, everything, we have to respond and say, hey, have hope. It's little things you can do. And it involves you also reframing your power in the world. You're much more powerful than you think because you affect everybody around you.
Think about the way that you started the decade versus how you're ending the decade. Yeah, you put up some videos on YouTube in the beginning, but they were clownish because you were so scared to take the step off the plank.
So it's interesting, it's good to go back to those videos. So starting out with like the first real video I did as ZDoggMD was called Colon Wars. And it's funny because now Star Wars, that saga is wrapped up, right? And for better or for worse, I haven't seen the new one yet. And I started with this idea that, oh, isn't it funny that a colonoscopy is just like flying down the trench in Star Wars? And I made a bunch of jokes and it turned out it went viral among GI docs, right? But it's pure comedy. Like, I mean, it's not even that funny. It's just clownish. Me in a room with a camera, didn't know what I was doing. I got a Mac, so I was able to edit for the first time, get it on YouTube. And I put it out and I remember even with that video, I was like, oh shit, like I can do so much damage in the world. Like there's so much stuff in my head that I want to get out. And the early stuff was terrible. But it's funny, there's still people who come up to me, usually doctors, who are like, dude, you've fallen off, man. It's those early videos. And they're off their rocker in my mind, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, that's right, man. That was me in the heart of medicine when I was full-time practicing. That came from that place, right?
Well, you were making yourself into a joke, I think, because you were scared of anybody actually taking you seriously. Because if somebody took you seriously, then it was real. And then you had really stepped out and you were alone, right?
You know, the first time I had to be taken seriously was for TED-Med in 2013. And they told me specifically, like, this is not a joke. You can use humor, but there has to be a gift, a message you're giving the audience, and it has to be serious. And I wasn't having any of that because part of I think my conditioning is you use humor to keep people at a bit of a distance, to break down sort of the fear of people not accepting you. So if you make a joke and they laugh, you've been accepted. If you say something serious and they don't agree or they're not feeling it or you haven't given it the gravity that it needs, you've been rejected. And so I think that's a deep conditioning. So yes, I think my early videos were a lot of clownery to try to push off, even if they had a serious topic. Like we did some stupid video called Pull and Pray about STDs, right? Horrible. But the idea was, A, use a condom. Coitus interruptus is a bad way to keep safe from things like STD and pregnancy. So let's make this stupid song about it that's clownery and me putting on a Kangol and, you know, yo, yo, yo. And so burying the lead, right, in all this comedic nonsense, I guess was a way to get me to feel. It was only after I met you guys, actually, that I started going, because you would tell me, no, you actually have to, there's a message here that you're burying, so stop being an asshole and just give the message, right?
Yeah, because, you know, the first time I met you was like in 2015, like midway through the decade. And I watched your videos beforehand and I was like, oh, these are like cute and funny. And like, I get what he's doing. Like, they're actually pretty good. Like, he might not even need me to come in and help out. But we had a meeting and then we talked for the first time. And I was like, you know what? There's just something about Zubin. Like, I liked you immediately. You were super inspiring in what you were doing. And I could tell that you were divorced from the character that was ZDoggMD. Like, that there was a real significant person behind this shtick. And so when we had our first meetings, all I like wanted to do was be like, say the shit you're saying to me now to everybody, you know. And maybe it's because I have a millennial authenticity or something, but I was like, just say it. Fuck these old men who want everybody to shut the fuck up and let them continue to print money, you know.
It's really kind of true, actually. I hate to say it because I have trouble seeing myself clearly, but you actually always did have that kind of figured out, that like, just say the shit that we talk about, right? Which is why I started working with you, because I'm like, hey, this guy actually gets it, man. And the quality of the work suddenly went, and with the, you know, I think with the elevation in the quality of the videos and the audios with Devin as the audio engineer, suddenly you couldn't hide behind bad production. So you couldn't say, oh, you know what, it's just me with a handy cam, like doing some shit, it looks terrible. And it's me with GarageBand and it sounds awful and I'm not a singer. And oh no, now I have an audio producer who's a world-class audio engineer. I have world-class cinematographers in you guys. And you know, he made me take vocal lessons so I could at least approximate in a studio the sound of some of the parodies we were trying to do. Now you can't hide behind bad production anymore, which means you can't hide behind dumb comedy. It has to be, even the character ZDoggMD was a joke. It was like a throwaway. Okay, what's the Twitter handle that wasn't taken? What did they used to call me in the 90s when I was in college? They called me Z-Dog because I used to like Snoop Dogg, because that was just a dumb, hey Z-Dog, I'll just use that. 10 years later, I'm still stuck with that fucking name. But that was what it was. It was this kind of thing, right? A character.
Let me tell you something, though. It goes deeper than all that, because 10 years ago, you're a doctor who's making a high six-figure salary. You're Stanford trained. Like, you have respect. You have money coming in. And you decide to take this crazy, brave step and step out on your own, right? And in doing that, so you pull everybody along in their wake. There's no reason why I should be in this hotel room speaking to you right now. You manifested that into reality, and I was inspired, and I got pulled along and became a Z-Packer also. So, like, as somebody who is a fan of you, I can tell you, like, it is meaningful what you've been doing the last 10 years in a deep way.
Mm.
And, like, it's not just me. Millions of people feel the same way about you, you know?
You know, in those rare periods where I can accept that connection, I sit here and go, wow, like what amazing amounts of gratitude I have, right? Like, how did we all connect? Like, how do you guys like drop everything and come work with me? Like, how do I get a team? Like, how do I get Devin to do these songs? Like, he's way too good for what I do, right? And yet here he does it. And I think it is because we all kind of align and we actually manifest each other. We go, you know what? We can actually do some good in the world. Even if we joke about, this is never gonna work. We wouldn't do it, I think, if we didn't truly believe. And I think people wouldn't follow. They really wouldn't. They wouldn't stop me in airports to take selfies. I'm not a famous person, dude. Like, I'm not famous in the way that, like, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio walks around and he's famous. The way that I get recognized is really fucking weird. Like, it's a nurse, or it's a medical student, or it's a doctor, or it's a respiratory therapist, and they come up and they go, you're Z-Dog. They don't even, it's not even a question, are you Z-Dog? You're Z-Dog, here's what I think about what you're doing, here's why you inspire me, can we have a selfie? It's a formula. And it's, I never get tired of it. You know, my wife gets tired of it because we'll be in a dinner and someone will just come up like they've known me forever. And that to me says, okay, we're doing something right. It means they know me as an authentic person, they trust me enough to come up, and they care enough about the message, something's resonating. So something we're doing right that we can't stop. And we've experimented with all kinds of shit. Oh, will we get more views if we do this? And then if we do, you've seen, sometimes I just get really sad when we get a lot of views doing something that I don't believe is
right
helping the world.
Yeah, but you know, the views and stuff that's surface. You know, I think what people are here for is, it's so, like, especially in your field, it's so fucking rare that somebody would step out like that. You know, like, what were the conditions? We talk about changing the individual. Like, what were and don't tell the same road story you tell all the time. What were the conditions at the origin that truly, like, made you take the first step?
So it's 2009, and I'm, you know, like nearly a decade into what was, in my mind at that point, my life. This is what I am. I'm a hospital doctor at Stanford, working for a big multi-specialty group. I teach, I do this, identity, this is my thing. I was so bored in my time off because I was on shifts basically when I wasn't charting an epic, that I was so bored that I was picking up stupid hobbies like audio gear, like high-end stereo gear, and just becoming neurotic about it. Like, all this energy going into this stupid, useless hobby that brought me no joy. It just brought me anxiety. And then at work, I was watching everything fall apart, like more and more computer, less and less teaching, less and less mentorship and shamanism, and more of just click, 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 click algorithm. But I think I had deceived myself enough that that was how it is. Like, oh, I do this for another 15, 20 years, then I retire, then I'll be happy. Or, you know, that's just what you do. This is just life. You work, and the harder you work, the happier you are, right? But none of that was really falling into place. And I had my kids, and that changed everything a little bit. But I found myself like reading books about string theory in my spare time, because I was like, what's the meaning of everything? Like, everything seems empty. Like, I'm doing all this, but I don't even understand what all this is. So when that starts happening, you start to wonder, like, what's going on in general? And then I made the mistake, and this was the thing. So I don't often tell the story publicly. So Tony Hsieh, the guy who runs Zappos, had just written a book called Delivering Happiness, about his experience with building a culture at Zappos. And he had gone to school, to Harvard with my wife. So they knew each other, and I knew him, and so on. And we were in Las Vegas one Thanksgiving. Las Vegas, of all places. We lived in the Bay Area. And he invited us over for Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. So we went with our 1-year-old daughter, Nina, at the time, or 2 years old, and said, and he was radiating this kind of joy about all the things that were going to happen. Like, I've made $1 billion. I have this amazing company. We're going to transform Las Vegas. We're going to do all this. This is my calling. This is my path. This is what I do. And I remember he looked at me. He's like, so how's everything at Stanford? It must be cool. Your parents must really be proud of you, and this and that. And you must be really happy. And I remember that was the first time someone asked me, oh, you must be really happy. And I'm like, I had to sit there and go. And I remember it just came out. I was like, no, I'm not happy at all. I've never really even been asked that. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not happy at all. This feels so wrong. Like, this profession that I thought was my calling has fallen into this chaos, and I myself am not the person that they think that I'm supposed to be. So what, and I remember I just told, like, what do I do? You know, I'm looking at this guy, he's like a billionaire. I don't know him that well. I'm just like sitting at the table. What do I do? And he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, if I'm being honest, I'm really good at teaching and making people laugh. And I don't know, I would probably put videos on YouTube or do something stupid like that. And he said, then why don't you just do that? And I remember going, okay, that's just dumb. You don't make money doing that. I have all these expectations. I can't be a doctor and do that. We flew back to the Bay Area. For the next 3 months, I went into a depression. Like, it was, because it had been held off by years of self-deception. Like, oh, you know, if I just get a bigger, nicer car, we get the house, I have kids, I'll be happy. Maybe if I become partner, I'll be happy. Okay, now I'm making a lot of money. I'm happy now, right? No. Okay, I'll get better speakers, and then I'll have beautiful music in my life. No. Fuck. 3 months of just suicidal depression. Like, my wife was so worried about me, because I would just come to bed at like 2 a.m, just like dragging and just detached and miserable. And I think she suspected it was because of the visit with Tony, where I was like, I'm not happy at all. And it all just unraveled. And that, I remember the night, it was like right before my birthday, 2010, beginning of the decade. I was like, fuck it. Went online, I created a Twitter account. What names are available? ZDoggMD? No one has that. I went through a bunch of different, placebo, this, that, nothing. ZDoggMD was available. I now have the Twitter account. I now have the Facebook account. I now have the YouTube account. Okay, let me upload a video. You know, graduation speech, video. Graduation speech had been up under a different name. I re-uploaded it. And the next thing I know, I was like, you knew it right away. I was like, even if there's like, it got 200 views or something. Like, this is the end of this phase of my life. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I was deluded. To be honest, that was delusional thinking. How can that be? Some idiot Stanford doctor like puts a dumbass video on YouTube and says to himself, clearly, I'll never forget what I told myself. I was like, this is the beginning of something transformative. And I don't know where it ends, but I know this is it. I know it. I know it. And it turned out to be true. And ever since then, it's been non-stop. Like doing generally what I feel called to do. And when I don't, I feel it. I start to really get depressed or burned out, and then I have to adjust course. But having the awareness now to go, oh, this is not me. I'm not doing this anymore. I've had phone calls, dude, with people that want something from me. And I've told them to fuck themselves on a phone call because it felt like I'm being pulled back into this world. Now, maybe that's an overreaction, but that's where I've gotten now. And it took me a decade after unplugging from that matrix to be able to do that. And people are like, oh, you're lucky you were able to do it because you have this talent and that talent. I don't have shit. All I had was the ability to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not afraid. I'm terrified. I'm not going to let the terror stop me from doing what I know, I feel intuitively is right. And so that's all it is. That's what I tell people too. Just you know the right answer. Why are you asking me for advice? You know what the answer is. You're just afraid of it. And even now, if you ask me, oh, what are the next 10 years, right? I'm probably terrified of what the answer is, right? Because maybe it's something crazy, right? But that's how it has to be.
The power of the mind is not a joke, right? Like it's not delusional that you set your intention and you hit your target, you know? And the reason you were able to do it, like why you were inspired to do it, is because you were with somebody who inspired you, who had done it, who had manifested into reality, Tony. And you inspire the same thing in others. That's why it's inspiring to watch you. Because I get the same feeling. The story you told about Tony, I get the same feeling hanging out with you. I'm nuts. Like, this is a guy that shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be doing this. And yet he is. And he made this happen just by having the audacity to try.
It's really funny though, and we can't lessen the influence that people have in the world. So Tony had no business being as successful as he was. He was the introverted kid who was really awkward. I mean, my wife knew him at Harvard, and nobody predicted that he was going to do what he did. And when he did it, he brought so many people along with him and inspired so many people, and I was one of them, and continue to be inspired by him, actually. And the truth is, if we can do that, if every single person who walks into a hospital has the ability to inspire at least one other person in that hospital, whether it's a patient that day, whether it's somebody, and it's just by being present and being them and showing that intention does matter. Intention matters. That's why one of my missions in this next decade is to fight tooth and nail this idea that people get vilified online when they make a mistake or when they say something and their intentions are misunderstood. Look at the intention behind the action and respect that intention. And if the action's wrong, give the feedback, but don't assume somebody is a bad person.
Think about how powerful that ripple effect really is. And it's almost like you being in the position that you're in as like the lone person of the last 10, you really are like the maverick of the last 10 years in healthcare. Okay. I'm just going to tell you that you can own it because I just said it to you. It's almost like you're going to fucking set fire to the kindling that is underneath the entire, substrate, because where do more ripple effects, where could they ever possibly happen than in the nation's hospitals, clinics, urgent cares? Like where could it ever, that's where the fucking ripple comes from. People go in there and have a positive experience. It could change society.
I think that it's these individual things. And this is the other thing. So the other thing I do, I am in a hotel in Vegas. I travel all the time. Before 2010, I never traveled. I never got on a plane. It was a huge deal. Like print the ticket out, worry about, oh my gosh, I got to get there 3 hours. Now I'm going all around the country speaking and performing and connecting with people. And the crazy thing is I see it on the ground level. It's like you go to like Stormont Vale in Kansas and you listen, people fill a theater to come and see you. And they all have stories of like, oh, this is what I do in the hospital. Every day I do this thing. And people are affected by it. And they have enough awareness to see that. And then you magnify that. You redirect and go, look at the influence that you have. You think you're powerless, you're stressed, you're depressed, and all that. It's okay to have those feelings and to be that way. But look at also what you're doing, and then the more you set your intention, I'm going to come into the hospital today and I'm going to influence at least one other person for the better. That's actually going to happen.
Well, I'll do my best to anonymize this story, but like think about, all the times you've had your preconceptions rocked in so far as I remember one time we were going out to a rural area, and I won't say where because it'll dox who the person is, but your preconception was that this doctor that we were going to meet was sort of a piece of shit, and that they were probably doing unnecessary procedures and billing. And then we got to go inside their clinic and we got to hang out with them for a few days. And I think you had a total change of heart where you were like, oh shit, this guy is like a pillar of this. He's like propping up this community. He's a foreign medical grad who came, here to rural America to like actually do it. So I think it's more often that you find positive things when you...
I got to say this. I have a lot of preconceptions and biases, as does everyone. And when I find them destroyed, like not just disillusioned, it's absolutely destroyed. It's an awakening experience. You go, wow, everybody is trying their best. Some are trying a little harder than others, but everyone's doing the best they can. And then you want to encourage it when people are doing good. That's why I say things like incentives matter. A fee-for-service incentive system means you do more stuff to people. This disintermediating patients from the cost of care is tough because then costs escalate, especially when doctors are getting paid. If one of the hardest things to get people to do is to look at their own incentives and how they're affecting what they're doing. These are good people with bad incentives. What happens? The behaviors are then bad. And it's really hard because these are my people. I was incentivized the same way and I did the same bad things. It's much easier to bring someone in the hospital unnecessarily if you're getting paid to do it. It's so much work to discharge someone from the emergency department and risk, what if I get sued? What if I miss something? Bring them in, and then what happens? They end up getting a hospital-acquired pneumonia, end up having complications, and they end up dying. So you've made a fatal decision based on your financial incentives, and then you have to live with yourself.
It's sort of a story that's familiar across, human history, which is like the young, naive farm boy gets conscripted and then finds himself in a war, in the machinery of war, doing horrible things that go against their moral code.
There are many times when I think that's why moral injury resonates so much, is it does feel like that. It feels like that kind of environment. Now, I've had military people reach out and say, you don't understand what moral injury is. And I agree. It's impossible to fathom that. At the same time, I think it's on a spectrum, and I think this spectrum is similar. But see, this is the thing. This is where, okay, now we have a burgeoning explosion of amazing doctors on YouTube. There's really funny people, like Medlife Crisis, this British guy. He's genuinely funny, smart, educational, and is rewarded with lots of subscribers and lots of engagement. And this is amazing. This is what we want to see happen, is people expressing themselves. What I think we do that's quite unique is we have people themselves wake up. So part of our message is you watching have much more power than you know. Like once we recognize the problems, you can actually change it through intention, through these little things. If it's just taking the EHR and spinning it around so that the patient can see what you're typing, you've now broken down a bit of the barrier that this garbage technology created. Right? Did anyone intend the garbage technology to be garbage technology? No. They were the product of incentives.
Yeah.
So it's just like that.
I think it's interesting because it's like the cynical people that are out there, and I'm myself always
oh, me too.
cynical and skeptical. And they're going to look at you and they're going to be like, fuck this guy. This guy is, he's rich. He's sitting in some fancy hotel room. Everybody loves him. And he's telling me, like the lowly clerk, to, I'm supposed to speak up. No, I'm just going to like live for the weekend and, just keep clocking in and then die. Like, that's what I'm going to do. Right.
There's a huge undercurrent of that. And I used to take it very personally because I know who I am, right? That's the other thing. Is like,
well, know the fucking power. You know the power of, like, if you believed in it, then you could bring it into reality. Like, everyone can. It's not scarce.
These are excuses. And when I call them that, people get very angry. I go, stop complaining, or continue to complain. I did. It's not like I stopped complaining, dude. I bitch and moan constantly. I just stand up and go and do something, even if it's a little thing. But the thing is, these guys, I think it's another layer to protect them from the underlying fear of who and what they are. Who and what they are is vastly greater than what they think, and they're terrified of that because with it comes the responsibility to live a little bit unstably for a while. Like when I started doing this thing, man, when I finally left Stanford, that was, dude, like, I'm sure I've shaved a few years off my life just from stress. Like, I have little lacunae in my brain from hypertension, probably from just being like, what am I doing?
Oh man, it's scary to be out there.
Terrifying. Yeah. And then, like after the TEDMed thing, then there was all this expectation. Oh, he's going to build a clinic that's going to transform healthcare. And it's like, dude, nobody can live up to that. All right. All you can do is set an example and try to set some kind of intention that this thing is going to perturbate this system in a way that more things happen. And now look what's happening. You have people up in Vancouver, Washington that are doing very similar models and have made it better. And they're going to conferences like AMG and they're telling people about it. I'm like, this is it. This is what we want. We want this to ripple out if it transforms even a part of primary care. So, but everybody can do that. Even the smallest role in the hospital, even just showing up that day and doing your thing. And this is the other thing I don't let people off the hook for. Do your job like you fucking care about it. Like, you don't have to be the best whatever, right? But you have to come with all your energy, everything brought to it like you care about it. And people who do that, even if they're not good at what they do, man, I love them. People who you can tell they're phoning it in or they don't care, right away. You're like, you're in the wrong thing. And now you're making my life hard, right? And you're making the patient's life hard. And whether you're an administrator or a doctor, it doesn't matter. The effect is the same. It's negative.
Okay, we're going to do a blood oath right here. Except we're not going to swap blood because it's gross. But 10 years from now, no matter what we're doing, even if we're not working together, we're going to come back and finish this part of the video. So give me your predictions for the next 10 years.
Oh, man. Well, my prediction is I'm going to still be bald. Next.
For healthcare. Give me your predictions for healthcare.
Predictions for healthcare. Okay.
What do you think is going to change? I mean, what do you see on the horizon? Like,
I think we're in a situation now where the current system is not ever going to stay stable. We're going to get instability in that system, which is either going to emerge a better system, better payment models, better incentives, better care patterns, or it's going to codify a shift to something worse that we're seeing now, which is algorithms and cookbooks. What I think, if I had my way, what would happen is we would figure out that most of medicine, the most effective parts of a lot of modern medicine, is the shamanic connection between the healthcare giver and the patient. It's a relationship between two people. And it's not just that, it's empowered by a network relationship for all the other people that contribute to that. It's a human dynamic. So let's make sure that we respect and honor that. That explains the mind-body connection, that explains the placebo, and then really optimize the science where it can be optimized. So figure out that most of the stuff we do doesn't work. We're just paid to do it. There's inertia. The medicine culture is it's a fucking garbage culture, Tom. It's it's indefensible in the 21st century. It is garbage.
Look, can we get to the beautiful dream if the relationship's taking place in this central bureaucracy? You know, I have to go into this soulless hospital to talk to the doctor, right? And he just treats me like I took a number at the counter and I'm here for a fucking sandwich at the deli.
No, it can 1,000% it can change. Yeah, because we saw
within that.
Within that, no, you have. Well,
can
okay.
you decentralize?
You can destabilize that pattern. You can say, you know what, the incentives have changed. You're now paid that both caregivers and patients have a certain type of experience and certain types of outcomes. It's hard to measure those, right? But it's a doable thing. It's an asymptote we can strive to reach. We may never get there. But the thing is, I've saw it in our clinic, I've seen it in other clinics where it is really about this relationship. It's not a transaction anymore. And it, you know, you and I joke like, oh, am I just bullshitting? No, dude, I saw it work. The days that I saw it work where it really gives you this sense that, oh, if we can do it here in Las Vegas, in some of the shittiest healthcare in the country here, like this place, the Wild West, it can happen in the hearts of our big institutions. It just and when I go and talk, these leaders are inspired. That's one thing I'll give myself. I'll sit at the table with them and they're wiping tears after the talk and they're saying, this has been so hard leading this organization. People don't realize I'm the bad guy, then I have to save everybody, I have to pay for everything. I'm a doctor too, so there's that. But thank you for making me feel like this can be done, right? And it will be done. So if that's all we do, Tom, in 10 years, is start to inspire that change and it happens even 30%, that's a huge accomplishment in such a massive system that causes so much human suffering.
Let me tell you something. I've now been doing this for 5 years.
That's nuts. Half a decade.
From age 25 to 30. So I have now seeded the change of healthcare with part of my youth. And if you fuck this up, ZDoggMD, I'd be so pissed.
No pressure, Tom Heinemer. No pressure. You know what, though, honestly? That is enough. That's a good enough reason as any that all of us have seeded a lot of our lives. And think about when you hear about a patient who just got fucking screwed, right? Because the system, you know, like your dad or anybody who's just been through this ringer, or your mom, right? Or my parents, they've had terrible health care too occasionally. And you're just like, this is not just about like, oh, I'm a doctor and I need to have a better life. It's about really fixing it.
Let me dude, legitimately, like I was telling my wife the other day, like I was like, I know too much about healthcare. Like I shouldn't know this much. And you know, honestly, now it's like shaken my faith and confidence in the system. And I want to be put back into the matrix where I thought that doctors were, you know, really smart, great people who were going to help me, and not that they were handcuffed by all this bullshit, you know, and I was going to be treated like an automaton.
You know what's weird? When I become a patient or when my family becomes patients, I let go of everything I know and I place a shamanic trust in the person who's there, whether it's the nurse or the doctor. It's happened a few times now, and I'm always shocked because I know better, right? I'm like, but the truth is I also know better. I know that they actually do want me to get better. They do care. They actually do. And that, yes, they got all kinds of systems problems, and you can make jokes about it in real time, right, to try to diffuse some of the stress. But the truth is they're there, they're with you, and we have to give them that part of us as patients. Otherwise, we can't expect them to give what they give. That's, I think, part of the problem is we do need to hold ourselves as patients accountable. It's hard because you know a lot now, and it's easy to get cynical. I know enough now that I've actually pushed beyond cynicism and I've transcended into like actual hope. I'm like, we're all humans, man. We're doing the best we can. I think we actually have something here that could work. So 10 years, I think we might see it manifest. If I had my way, I would talk about nothing but meditation, self-actualization, and transcending our material worldview. But I know that that's not actually going to move the needle as much as what we do. So it's going to infuse what we do a little bit. In a way that Deepak Chopra has become famous and annoying for in the bad side. Like he's trying. It's interesting because, you know, I've really got to think about that.
Just say it. Just blurt it out.
Because if I'm being honest, like, you know, like the interview I did with Donald Hoffman, if we're talking about the next 10 years,
yeah,
you know, a 2-hour interview, go read the comments on that interview. It's got 200 and some odd thousand views on YouTube. And it was me in a flow state with an individual that I thought is onto something about understanding who we are. And I thought it would actually power a healthcare transformation if we actually saw the world that way. So for 2 hours, I interviewed the guy thinking no one will watch it. Not only did a bunch of people watch it, but the comments are insane, dude. And so when you look at someone like Deepak Chopra, who's been talking this kind of woo-woo nonsense for how many decades, right? But then you have to go, well, he's actually not entirely wrong. The heart of what he's saying is not wrong. He's just framing it in pseudoscientific gibberish. Maybe our role in the next 10 years is to science the fuck out of that and actually bring it to the world in a way that actually, okay, now that is the next emergent paradigm, is something that transcends this reductionist approach that is, I think, fucked medicine up. And we've ceded that to people that are in the alternative medicine world that speak ill of science and slander what actually works. Why?
When scientists hate them too.
And scientists
goes both ways, right?
It goes both ways. Yeah. They're all dogmatic, but the truth is, the scientists are right. These guys are spewing pseudoscientific gibberish, but the alternative medicine guys are right, because there's something that science is not able, in its current incarnation, to quantify, and that is this.
Yeah.
And that's what acupuncture. What is that? Is that magical chi? No, it's somebody there looking you in the eye, touching you. Sham acupuncture works like regular acupuncture. That's what we need to be understanding. And there's precious little research in it. So maybe we can inspire people to do that.